Namaste. Dharma is like an ocean. Waves rise, fall, and rise again. Similarly, Dharma in Kali Yuga for one moment will be like a high tide. In the next moment, it recedes like a low tide, but to rise again at an appropriate time. If this amazing pattern of Dharma has to be exhibited through history, then I recall none but the Vijayanagar Empire. Its rise before the Battle of Talikota, its slide after the battle, and its miraculous revival in the closing years of 16th century is as fascinating as the pattern of Dharma that I just spoke about. I don't wish to hold you back from watching the new series from Anveshi channel. Let us all watch the proverbial rise of Phoenix Act done by the Vijayanagara. Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. Namaste.
In the second half of the 16th century, the Vijayanagara Empire has suffered from several rude shocks. A major military defeat on the battlefield of Talikota in 1565 AD, the deaths of two supreme commanders, Aliya Ramaraya and Venkatadri, and the total destruction of their capital city, Hampi, have devastated the empire beyond measure. The mysterious flight of the surviving commander Tirumalaraya from Hampi, along with the puppet emperor Sadashiva, has further worsened the morale of the mighty empire. Even after Tirumalaraya set up the empire's capital at Penugonda, he was not spared from the attacks of his enemies. His short rule of 3 years has witnessed continuous loss of Vijayanagara territories. The reign of Sriranga I, who took over the kingship from his father Tirumala II, saw the downslide of the empire on account of its territorial losses. The glorious Vijayanagara Empire was thus sliding towards its destruction, dissolution, and dismemberment. The empire was in need of a savior who can turn the tide and restore the glory and reinforce the dwindling glimmer of hope. Who is he?
Venkata II comes into the picture as a head of a house that is divided on many counts. He inherits a family that is ripping itself apart by getting driven by greed, lust, incompetency, and whatnot. At the time of Venkata's accession to the throne, the word patriotism was losing its meaning throughout Vijayanagara. This word was about to become a word that can only be found in a dictionary. And Venkata II was destined to go through a rigorous ordeal to set the things right. Before understanding the achievements of Venkata, I feel that we must understand the baggage, the additional baggage handed over to him by his immediate predecessors.
In 1578, Tirumalaraya, the grandfather of Venkata, has stepped down from the throne. By this time, Vijayanagara lost considerable number of provinces to Golconda and Bijapur. Strategic forts such as Kondavidu, Gandikota, and Adoni on northern frontier were lost to Golconda. Similarly, on western frontier, critical forts such as Dharwad, Turkal, and Bankapura were lost to Bijapur. At the very beginning of Ranga's reign, the whole of west coast in Karnataka offered its allegiance to Ali Adil Shah of Bijapur. There were disturbances on the east coast in Tamil Nadu, where few tribes have stopped acknowledging Ranga's sovereignty. In addition to these troubles, Rangaraya had to face the Bijapur forces at the gates of his capital itself. Penugonda was attacked by Ali Adil Shah and Ranga with a brilliant diplomatic move that not only stopped the collapse of his capital, but also ejected Bijapur forces with a tactical military maneuver. Nevertheless, the reign of Ranga I that ended in 1586 could not take back the territories lost to his Islamic adversaries.
It is said that during Sriranga's rule, many villages were desolated due to fear of invasions. Large tracts of fields were left uncultivated. Daily rituals in the temples that were falling in the troubled areas were altogether stopped. Such was the plight of Vijayanagara in the post-Talikota phase.
Both Tirumalaraya and his son Sriranga adopted a defensive policy and have tried shielding their throne and the new capital Penugonda from the attacks of Islamic forces. This does not mean that they didn't have the intent to restore the pristine glory of Vijayanagara. But they were handicapped with no assistance from their feudatories. Most of Vijayanagara's satraps were taking the advantage of their imperial lord's defeat in the Battle of Talikota and were trying to become independent. Many Palagars were on a rampage and were pillaging the towns and villages to fill their coffers. In such chaotic and calamitous period, Venkata II was asked to head the empire.
The selection of Venkata II for the throne of Vijayanagara was a surprise development. There were two rightful heirs who could have inherited the throne. These two heirs were none other than the sons of Rama, the elder brother of Venkata. But the powerful nobles of Vijayanagara felt that these two princes may be inefficient in handling the messy situation prevailed over the empire. So they found an able leader in Venkata II, who was the brother of Sriranga I and the youngest uncle of the two heir apparents. Thus, Venkata II, who originally was not a contender for the throne, became the monarch of such an empire that was inching towards a total collapse.
The major challenge lying before Venkata was the frequent losses of territories. He must address this grave concern, which otherwise can only fasten the death of a great empire. He must not only defend the existing frontiers, but must win back the lost ones. Because the loss of territory brings loss of revenue, which can complicate the military might of the empire. Venkata knew this vicious but unavoidable cycle of maintaining territorial gain, an effective war machine. But he could not go on an offensive from the word go, as his house itself was not in order. There were rebellions going on in several regions of the empire, and there was a perpetual threat of disobedience from the powerful Nayakas. Venkata was tasked with two different but interrelated tasks of subduing the internal conflicts and countering the external invasions by the adversaries.
Venkata II was in need of proving his mettle not only as an administrator but also as a military genius. He wanted one such watershed moment that can go a long way in firming up the shaky foundations of this empire. Call it a divine design or the will of the fate, his much desired moment came knocking on his doors on the banks of River Penna.